Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell, and it is Thursday, February 2nd, 2012, the year of the apocalypse. I'm a little under the weather. Actually, I'm a lot under the weather today, folks, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that, make a couple of announcements, and then comment briefly on a Daily Bell article. I've been very under the weather, largely exhaustion and stress, I think so, and it's largely because I've been getting a lot of Facebook messages and emails and people talking to me on Skype, and I'm I wish I could respond to everybody. I just can't, and I do apologize for that, but I'm so busy, as you can tell. Let me show you. As you can tell, back there on my table, I'm hard at work on the sequel to Babylon's Banksters, and I think I've got a publisher for that, so hopefully that will be out next year sometime. Anyway, the second announcement is that Dr. DeHart, that I asked for some of your prayers, he's doing better, and I do thank you for that. He thanks you. We are trying to schedule time for an interview with him on the Bite Show about Yahweh, the two-faced God, and we're working on that. So I'll keep everybody posted right here as to what's going on. Anyway, today, or rather on January 30th, there was an article in the Daily Bell about all the talk about the coming gold standard. And I'm going to post the link on the website version of this news and views from the Nefarium. But basically, their argument in the Daily Bell is that the push for the gold standard is yet again part of the quote-unquote directed history that the Anglo-American corporate elite is pushing. They're pushing the collapse of the dollar and its replacement as with some sort of modified gold standard. Now, pardon me, that's very interesting because if you go back to what I said in Babylon's Banksters, gold was indeed part of the early world's understanding of money. And that understanding, if you recall, was manipulated by bullion brokers. In other words, anything that humans decide to use as money can function as money. At one point in Mesopotamia, it was cuneiform tablets, this little clay tablets, bills of exchange, and so on and so forth, functioned very much as currency in ancient Mesopotamia. Bullion entered the picture rather later, and it was always subject to those dealing in slavery and dealing in international mercantile operations and so on and so forth. So it was always a commodity that was manipulating the market of money itself. Now, the reason I go into all of that is, if you'll also recall in Babylon's Banksters, I pointed out that the 13 colonies in the United States got along very well for a period of time. They were very prosperous for a period of time prior to the American Revolution. The 13 colonies at that period of time had very little bullion to mint or make money. In other words, the gold and silver standards were not even in effect. The colonies were issuing paper money directly, and it was debt-free. Now, this is an important point because this is part of the debate that is not occurring. If you listen very carefully, Ron Paul, of course, is a supporter of the gold standard. Even former House Speaker Newt Gingrich has jumped on the gold standard bandwagon recently. But what's being short-circuited here is people don't realize that what that will mean is a massive contraction of the money supply and a massive deflation. That could be very destabilizing. So we need to have, as all of this is going on, we need to have the people informed and taking part of this debate. We do need to have a debate over whether or not we're going to have a metal-backed or bullion-backed currency system, or if we're going to return to genuine state-issued debt-free money. And that's a different proposition than what you're hearing out of people today. You hear a lot of talk about fiat money, but fiat money has worked in the past so long as that fiat money has remained solely in the hands of governments issuing it. When it is in the hands of private bankers, that's when you get the inflation and the constant decline of the value of whatever currency that you're dealing with. This was true in Germany with the Reichsbank. It's certainly been true in this country in the last 100 or so years since the establishment of the Federal Reserve private monopoly bank. So we really need to have a debate. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm all in favor of government backed fiat currency. It doesn't mean that I'm in favor of a bullion standard as a reserve currency in the world. I'm saying really we need to have much more of a debate. But I do agree with the Daily Bell about this. We do need to be very, very wary about who's pushing and who's calling for this move back to a bullion backed currency. Read Carol Quigley, folks, Tragedy and Hope, on how the bullion or gold standard for international currency exchange collapsed as a result of World War I, when it was no longer able to finance the vast expansion of credit that was needed to finance World War I. And so the entire mechanism of world finance had to be rethought, not only during World War I, but in the interwar period between World War I and World War II. And of course, the Bretton Woods Agreement, to a certain extent, was a finalization of all that rethinking. So we need to have much more detailed a debate than what's going on right now. And that's my thoughts on the current bullion craze that you hear in the political debates. Anyway, I do want to thank all of you again for your support, for your prayers, both for Dr. DeHart and me. And I want to thank all of you. Some of you know who you are, especially for the donations. They have helped me tremendously in this very expensive research that I've been conducting for the sequels to Babylon's Banksters. One final word about that sequel. That sequel is going to cover, it's going to go back over a little bit of the ancient history. It's going to be focused much more on medieval and Renaissance history and the early modern period of finance. So anyway, that's it for news and views from the Nefarium for Thursday, February 2nd in the year of the apocalypse 2012. Keep your ears glued, folks, because there's going to be some interesting things, I think, happening in the independent research community this year with respect to 2012. So anyway, that's it, and we'll see everybody on the flip side. God bless everybody.